But I think back to 2004, I was just 26 then. I'd only been teaching a couple of years, and I would have been out to family and friends, but I wasn't out in my school. The culture in our schools at that time were very much places where you didn't talk about being a lesbian. Most people in our primary schools didn't even entertain the idea that there could be a lesbian or a gay person or a transgender people sitting in the staff rooms with them. The question of what did you do at the weekend was a very loaded question. I didn't speak about that part of my life. I simply didn't speak about it. It's a very isolating feeling when you're not able to talk about an essential part of who you are. A friend of mine drew my attention to an article in the INTO magazine talking about setting up an LGBT group for teachers. It was relief that they were setting up a group, but there was also that sense of fear that by going I would be coming out. The first meeting took place on the 26th of November 2004. As the 14 people introduced themselves, I knew something special was happening. There was two main goals for the group from that meeting. The first one was to tackle Section 37(1) of the Employment Equality Act, which allowed religious-run organisations to prevent the undermining of the ethos of their organisations. It created a chill factor for all LGBT teachers. The other thing was to tackle the homophobia in our primary schools. The INTO were the first teachers' union in the country to set up a group for LGBT teachers. To have our union endorse and support us was very important. I knew that being part of the group from that day forward was going to have a profound impact, not only on my teaching career, but personally as well.
Well, I suppose I joined the INTO LGBT group back in 2007, I'd imagine. I wasn't a spring chicken anymore, so I was saying, it's about time I did something about, being out. I wanted to make a difference. I have to say I was petrified because there was a lot of intolerance, and you didn't know how people were going to react to you. But when I went there and I met them, they were the grandest people that you could meet. We were organising the first ever conference by an LGBT group in 2009. We knew that we were going to go public, we were to have media there. So before the conference, I came out to my staff in school first of all. It's just the fear of the unknown, you're not too sure how people are going to react to you. I got a fantastic reaction. They were saying, why didn't the hell didn't you say anything years ago, for God's sake? The conference itself was fantastic. People came up to me and congratulated me, and it was in all the newspapers. I had to speak on radio and things like that. Then a couple of months after that, the local GA club, they wanted me to be the chairperson. They didn't care whether I was gay or straight. I go to a lot of matches and I'm very much into sport. For me to be accepted by my local GA club was fantastic as well.
I've been part of this group for 13 years now. It was the summer that I came out and life was so hard, and I was just about to graduate from college and start teaching. And then all of a sudden, the principal who I'd already been working with said to me, I think your personality now might suit a different type of school. Two teachers said, well, it's okay for now because you don't look gay. And I had all these comments, but I had no way to stand up for myself. I just thought, God, I'm going to lose my teaching job. I'm going to lose this profession that I've been looking forward to and working so hard to be part of. I can't be the only one. But I'd never met a gay teacher. I'd never met anybody from the LGBT community in my town even. I saw the group marching at Pride and I thought, this time next year, I could be in that group. I could be walking down there. Those people are so brave and they are so proud, and maybe that could be me. Maybe I can stay in Ireland and teach. Maybe I do have a future here. Got to my first meeting and didn't know what to expect. But when I walked in, it was just a bunch of teachers that looked just like me, and I thought, oh God, yeah, we're just teachers trying to do our job who happen to be LGBTQ. These stories are so funny. You'd either laugh or cry. People would skip you in the staff room having coffee when it came to asking about your weekend or your summer plans. And these were the people I would have worked with and who would have known me before I came out, and now they're treating me differently. And so I started Not a Second Class Teacher blog along with other members from the group, and we just started to tell our stories and put our names to the stories and our photos. That blog turned into radio interviews, turned into Irish Times articles, and you didn't feel so alone. It wasn't even just you and the group, it was thousands of people supporting you. Some stories that we have in that blog are the saddest stories you'll ever read. They're stories of a wasted career or a wasted life where nobody got to be themselves. But they were all real and they had faces and they had names, and it meant something to somebody.
When I was a student teacher, when I was still in college, I was having a really hard time coming to terms with the fact that I was trans, and that made it a really difficult kind of prospect, thinking that I'm going to have to go out into the world as a teacher and deal with all of the kind of transphobia and negative reactions that people were going to have. I was lucky to have a really kind of supportive lecturer who kind of pointed me in the direction of the group. Even though I've known since I was 18 about being non-binary and being out kind of in other aspects of my life, like, I still am not out at work. There's so much worry, needless worry about like trans identities because of like fears that have been stoked up by media. Being part of this documentary is probably the most public facing thing I've done using the name Fikra. Visibility is hugely important. It makes a big difference because people connect with people like as individuals, and then it's hard to kind of like really buy into that mass hysteria about people once you're like, well, that's my neighbor, that's my friend, that's my kid's teacher, that's whatever, and I know that they're a nice person, they're normal, same as me. That's hugely important for everyone involved in the school, but especially the kids. They need teachers that are representative of them, and that goes for all aspects of marginalization, whether it's LGBT, whether you're a member of the traveling community. Every child deserves to see supportive adults in their community that look like them, that are similar to them, to see that like, no, when I grow up, it can be okay. There's a place for me in this world. It's useful to have the group itself as kind of like the social connection and the personal things, and having someone that I could say, how am I supposed to do this? How do I navigate this? And then it's also useful to know like our group is supported by the union. On a kind of institutional level, they're showing support for the LGBT teachers, and it's really, really important for people.
We had the marriage referendum passing in 2015, and Section 37(1) was also amended later in that year. Both of those things, they've had a huge impact on our lives. We can get married and be out in our schools without fear because we are protected legislatively.
Well, I think very importantly for the teachers group, they need to support our younger teachers. There have been huge changes made since I was a young teacher, and you would hope that has made a huge difference to the generations that are there now.
This documentary is a celebration of how far the group has come and everything that we have done. But this letter, it comes from a teacher who works outside Dublin in a Catholic school, and unfortunately is one of the majority of LGBTQ teachers who aren't working in a safe and inclusive environment. This person was supposed to be in our documentary. They just don't feel safe to do so, so I'm going to read their contribution instead. I work and live in a small rural community. Having lived abroad for many years, I dreamt about coming home and having my children experience a peaceful Irish childhood. I watched marriage equality happen from afar, and I thought to myself, Ireland has changed. I moved back to a rural seaside village to be near family, and I began to build community. Then I decided to look for a teaching job. This is where a very different reality set in for me. I was really surprised to find I needed a Catholic religion teaching certificate for every job advertised. I could tell very quickly that perhaps flying the rainbow flag might not be in my best interest. The permanent job arrived, and in my kids' school no less. I was overjoyed, but the fear remained. I think many people outside of the world of teaching assume religion is just a subject, but in every school I've worked in, it's been my experience that it's not just a subject, it's an identity. But it's also in the small moments. The parish priest having lunch in the staff room, saying a prayer at the Board of Management meetings, coming in to say Mass in classrooms, and where no provision for opt-out students is given. It's in the countless hours given to sacramental prep and in the religious hymns floating down the hallways. It's in the fact that if I wanted to move job in the morning, I would have to write a letter to the bishop. It's in the vocabulary that's missing from the tongues of almost every teacher because they are scared they are doing something wrong if they talk about LGBT people or families. This silence stifles important conversations about diversity and acceptance. The most painful moment for me to date, however, was not in any of the small microaggressions in staff rooms or school playgrounds. It was the moment my kids asked me not to come out at school as they feared it would mean they would lose friends or be bullied. My heart fearfully sank in that moment, and I joined the INTO LGBT group. When asked to be part of this documentary, I thought this is my chance to speak about all of this. I felt like it was time. And then the fear came from my families and friends. Are you mad taking this on? What's going to be the backlash from your principal? What about the future when you're going for a promotion or a principalship? What about your kids and the impact it could have on them? And I hate that they are right to ask these questions. So I stay anonymous for now, for the safety of my job, for my kids, and I will keep slowly chipping away in the hope that one day soon I won't have to hide, and neither will my kids. How liberating it would be to see us move from a don't ask, don't tell environment to a do ask, do tell, one where we're all valued and celebrated. It's the saddest letter.
We have some of the best equality legislation for LGBT people in the world, but there's still a lot of work at a cultural level that needs to be done in our schools. Every school should ensure that they've got the inclusive staff room guidelines displayed in their staff room.
We teach the children all the time to stand up for each other, but teachers need to do the same thing. You know, the group still exists 20 years later, even with the change in the law, with marriage equality. Schools are slow to change, but there are examples of every ethos where people have included LGBTQ identities and nothing has happened except for the children are just a little bit kinder to themselves and kinder to other people. That's it. That's the effect of having LGBTQ teachers out and proud in schools.